Hi guys, Jared here with Day Traders FX. I hope you all have had a great weekend, and for those fathers out there, I hope you had a good Father's Day. It's the start of the week. We've got a couple of big things to talk about, so let's get right down to it. Remember, if you'd like to join us for this week of trading, you can get a free trial at daytradersfx.com, and you can join us for the whole week of trading. It should be a good, fun, crazy, exciting week. So we'll have a look at what we have setting up here. First of all, quick look at Dow, S&P. You can see everything rallied like crazy today. Gold's back down just a little bit. Oil's up. Things are all over the place. So a big, good, positive day for the Dow and a big one for the S&P. As far as news that we've seen this week so far, it's been pretty minimal. Coming up for Australia, we have the monetary policy meeting minutes. We have a lot of central bank, or we have a bit of central bank news this week anyway. So we have some stuff coming out of Australia. And then coming into tomorrow, we have quite a few things: building permits, CPI for the U.S., German zoos, CPI for the U.K. But the big one, definitely, without a doubt, is Wednesday's FOMC meeting. This is going to affect yen pairs, and this is going to affect dollar pairs, which pretty much is almost everything. So between those two currencies, there's some involvement of those in most of the pairs that we trade and look at. So this means a couple of things. Number one, we're probably going to see a ton of volatility during Wednesday, and number two, things might be a little bit choppy getting there. So we probably won't see any big breakouts either direction. We're just going to see, some little moves here and there and some things happening while we get to that Wednesday news, because the Wednesday news is going to be pretty big. So we'll keep our eye out on that. As far as some of the setups that we're looking for, my euro dollar, I'm not really doing much with the euro dollar just yet. We talked about this. We had a UK session to start the week off. We talked a little bit about this and kind of watching for a breakout of this little triangle here, and we had a breakout, for a couple of pips. It's pulled back mostly, hasn't done too much. What I'm ultimately looking for is, once again, I'm looking more to get short in this general area, but it's probably going to be after the FOMC news. Now, if we get a big breakout above this, then that's something else we'll deal with and look at. You can see the highs so far go all the way back to go all the way up to about 137. And we could see a test of that. That's definitely possible. But what I'm ultimately looking for is getting short somewhere in this area here. So that puts us somewhere between 134.00 and about 134.50 is where I would ultimately like to get short on the euro dollar and trade this thing down. So we've had this big rally up, and I think it's going to start to get a little bit shaky. We're coming into major resistance here from this weekly channel, 200 moving average. All of this stuff should put some shake and a little bit of fear into this euro rally, and at least get this working its way back down just a little bit for a couple hundred pips. So I think we should have a big run coming up there. Otherwise, I'm not too interested in anything else that's setting up, and I probably won't trade anything on the euro dollar until after the FOMC news on Wednesday. Pound dollar is kind of a similar situation. Now, what I'm looking for on the pound dollar here is this channel right here that has been slowly, on the increase here, and we had this big rally up over the last couple of weeks on the pound, and then it's just right at the top of this channel. It's having a heck of a time breaking any higher. You can see a little bit of a hammer right there on that daily chart, and so far it's kind of, it's staying pretty bullish, but it's having a little bit of a hard time making much of a break there. So ultimately, I'm looking for an opportunity to get short pound dollar, but there's probably going to be a lot of chop here. So again, I'm going to be really cautious and really careful about what I end up doing on this pound dollar for the coming week. And before we get to the FOMC news, remember that we have a missed weekly pivot on the pound dollar. And here was one I didn't even notice. We have a missed weekly pivot here and a missed weekly pivot there. So we have two missed weekly pivots on the pound dollar that are both a lot of pips away. And these are things that are going to really start to pull this pound dollar back down. So I'm looking at this channel right here. You can see our 23% fibs a little ways down there, about 155.65. So a cross of that should get things starting pretty nicely on the downside. So ultimately, again, I'm looking for those kinds of things on both pairs. We only have one missed pivot on the euro dollar, but we have two on the pound dollar, and I think that's going to be a really nice short coming up here sooner than later. Aussie dollar, again, a couple of things happening here. I'm still semi-interested in getting long on the Aussie dollar against this low, so I want to see this get a little bit lower. We have, from this high to low, we've been trying to make some runs at the 23% fib and have poked up above it just a little bit, but are ultimately having a little bit of trouble there. So I think that the Aussie dollar may be ready for a little bit more retracement, but I do think we have a nice opportunity to get long against this 93. It's about 93.25, give or take, area, and you can see we're a good little distance away from that, 225 pips or so. But I'm still excited about getting long against this low. So let's just watch this and look for opportunities to get long against this low within about 50 pips or so. So I'd like to see a decent sized drop, but then I'll be looking to trade as we get down there. But again, I'm probably not doing anything on the Aussie dollar until we get to that FOMC news. Now, here are the Euro Yen and Pound Yen pairs that are starting to look quite interesting. Euro Yen and Pound Yen both are doing the exact same thing. Look at these two charts, 1 hour charts. You almost can't tell the difference between the two of them. That's the two charts right there, Euro Yen and Pound Yen, and they just are doing the exact same thing, which is good because it means we can kind of cover two pairs with one shot. This one broke out. We had this nice rally. It dipped down through the week and bottomed out here, and then we had a little breakout here, an attempt at the weekly pivot, which we have not yet reached, followed with a little 1 hour pin bar right here. So we're finding some pretty good resistance there. We've broken out of this channel, or excuse me, of this descending trend line right there. We broke out, crawled along it, made a little bit of a run, and we're still above it. So that's still kind of bullish. But likewise, we've also broken this short-term trend line right here, which is, at least on the short term, a little bit on the bearish side. Now, what we're looking at here is the low of 124.95, which is still a big daily pin bar right here. This is a big daily pin bar. You can see that we're right at the low. This last little bump down here, which was right exactly pretty much to the pip. The low of this candle right here, you can see, is 124.98. And the low of this candle is 124.95. So within 3 pips over a couple of month period, we're right at that low again, and it's bouncing and holding pretty well. And I'm still ultimately looking to get long against this pair. So it's been down almost to a double bottom, and it's definitely within that 50% range here. So you can see of that pin bar, we're about 150 pips from the top, and we're about 140 pips from the bottom. So we're right in the middle of that area. So I still think that this is potentially a good area to get long on the yen pairs, on both of them. So again, it's the exact same setup. Now, the issue that we're going to have is we're probably going to see a lot of choppiness. This is the pound yen, same exact thing, except for the low back here extends a little tiny bit lower. But again, the challenge we're going to have with the yen pairs is they will react hugely to the FOMC news coming up. So I'm just kind of watching these, and the things that I'll be looking for is a break of this high on the euro yen, which is around 126.85. A break of that, of just, kind of the weekly high area there, and on the pound yen about 149.45. We start getting above that, and I think we could be into a bigger rally. Otherwise, I'm just kind of waiting, and I'm watching these levels. Ultimately, I like getting long against those big daily pin bars, which are both 150 or so pips below. And I think that's a good area to start looking for that bigger upward movement. But ultimately, I think yen pairs in the long term will be heading much lower. But that could be coming in weeks. For the moment, I'm just looking for the short-term activity, which so far the pairs have held against those lows and are staying above. So I think we have some some bullish potential as we start to break the weekly highs on both euro yen and pound yen. So we're going to be looking at those levels and just keeping our eyes out. We're going to be really careful and cautious going into the FOMC news this Wednesday. So we'll look for some short-term trades in the meantime, and we'll just kind of take it from there. So best of luck, guys. Thanks for being on. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I will have more updates coming out there. And you can follow me on Twitter at DayTradersFX.